right next to my flower petal, between my flower petal and the translucent. So I'm going to take one there, put one in there. Like that. Same thing on this one's a little shallow too, so and I may have to just add a little layer of rolled out clay. I'll show you that right now since I'm already recording. Take a layer of translucent, because you want all your translucent to come up to the tip of your petals. Okay, and then what I would do is, let me roughly get the space here. Okay, and then I'm going to pinch the edges just to taper it. Let me cut one end off so you can see in a second. It's like a puzzle. Backfilling is like a puzzle. It really is. And honestly, I'm still watching a movie. Anytime I pause, I turn the TV on, and I'm just kind of going for it. So it's kind of tapered on the edges. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to lay this in here. And then I'll come up a little higher. So if you run into any problems, just kind of try to work through them. Okay, so I'm going to keep continuing on. I got these last two to do, and those are pretty big triangles. So I'll first put the sausage in way down in the V, and then I'll make a triangle, and I'll be back when that's done. Okay? Okay, so we got all of that filled. Now the other spot is right here, because if I don't fill this, I'm going to have issues. Okay, we want this to stay a circle. So we also need to make, again, some small triangles for that to fit in there. Okay. So you can play with it a little bit more once you get them all filled in, because now it's all supported. Or every petal at least is supported by translucent. And now if I want to make this flat, I don't know if you guys, let me tilt you. See, there's a gap right here. So we need to get that filled in to the tips of our petals. Okay, so we need to get that translucent. It looks kind of like a trapezoid. I think that's what it's called from elementary school. So let's see. Trying to get a little log of sausage, or a little log of translucent. I'm going to flatten the top, right? I'm going to pull the ends to kind of make them. And then what I want to do, maybe I have a paintbrush nearby that's about that width of that circle right there, or about the thickness of my center, Oh, a pencil probably would work great. I'm going to make an indent here. Taper off the edges. So just, again, it's like a puzzle. It's just making the shapes to fit where they go. And I'm not a big fan of doing it like, you know, like backfilling. I'm really not. So there's like an indent right there. Actually, I want a bigger circle than what I just did. I've got this paintbrush. So I will give that circle some room. And I can kind of pull these edges down. That one I can. This one I may just want to just cut this off. Like that. And then I can make a triangle to fit in there as well. Because it's kind of a triangle shape. Let me see. Yep. Cut this excess off. Needs to be a little pointier. Okay, and then I have a gap right here, so I want to put something in there and a very small one there and there. Because if you don't fill those gaps in, your petal will move into that space. Because we're going to wrap this in translucent, and your petal is going to want to move into that spot. So you gotta, any little gaps you see like that, you've got to backfill them. If you're having trouble with your petals getting wonky, take your time. Add little sausages. That's one of the easiest ways I find to do it, if I have a little gap here, there, or wherever. Sometimes the triangles work, sometimes sausages, sometimes, you know, whatever shape you need to fit it in there. The softer your clay is, the easier you'll be able to fit it in there. And I'm just checking it all out. That fly is bugging the crap out of me. Let me see. So now the translucent's the high part, so now I can kind of push down evenly on the whole thing to get it to fit fairly flat on the table. There's still just a little gap right there. I don't know, can you see that right there? So we want to get that filled in. So just keep looking at it. If it looks like something is, there's a space somewhere, fill it. And you got to look for both sides too. Just pushing it flat on the table. And there's a little gap over here. Oh, come on, break off. Stinker. I know, weird angle, sorry, but I wanted to show you what I was talking about. Okay, that looks pretty flat on the bottom there to me. Okay. So, now we need to get a layer of translucent rolled out. I definitely want my thickest setting on the bottom here, so these petals don't lose their shape. I want the thickest setting along the bottom, and it can be probably maybe setting 3 around the edges. Okay, so let me get some rolled out, because I need to condition a little bit more. I'll be back. And my circle got a little wonky, but not too bad, because we put that groove in. This side looks a little funkier, but it's just the end as well. When we cut into it, it's the real truth. Okay, so I have the bottom one on my thickest setting here. And we're we're just going to lay that on. Let me just try to fix up these edges a little bit. I didn't really condition it a whole lot. I need a layer of translucent touching anything, but these edges here are all going to end up distorted, so I can flatten it out just a little bit. This fly is bugging the crap out of me, and I will kill it sometime. Let me get my fly swatter out and keep an eye out for it. Okay. So lay that one on there. I'm going to cut off the excess of this. Oop. Oop. There's the bottom, and then this is on my size 3, 2. Let me get it on a setting 3 on my Atlas 150. So just kind of 0 is my thickest, so 3 is not even my middle. It's a little thicker than the middle. Okay, so let me get it cut to the right width. Roughly to the right width. I gotta move some stuff. Almost done. This took forever, this one. So did the teardrop cane, but I really wanted to show you all of that. Or the water drop. I keep calling it teardrop, water drop. Now I want to use the water drop on this project, which is why I'm kind of making a funky looking half flower here. Because I actually do want to keep it fairly large. I have kind of a design in mind. And yes, I could have made a whole flower. Honestly, it probably would have been easier and then cut it in half, but I don't know, I have something in mind. And why not try it? And then just lay that guy on. Oh, did I cut it a little narrow, dummy? Yep. I did. Holy crap, I'm having issues today, guys, sorry. I don't know why I just did that. Okay, I'm going to get a piece, and I'm going to wrap it around the top. You know what I'm doing. I'm just having issues tonight. Okay, now because I said I wanted to reduce it as a half circle, or as a, not a half circle, a triangle, I need to get a little point kind of up here. So I'll just roll out some sheets and build it up to a point. And I think that way it will be easier for you guys to reduce. You can reduce it like this. If you're good at reducing, just do it like that. But I think some people are going to struggle with that. So I'm going to show you just how to make it like into a triangle. And that would be just adding some extra translucent. Build it kind of into a triangle shape, and each time I'll taper the next layer of translucent up. Like that, and then we'll get skinnier and skinnier, or shorter and shorter and shorter. Because if you push this into a triangle right now, it's going to push these petals upwards or downwards, depending how you reduce. But if I form that into a triangle, it's going to kind of screw my petal shape up. So if you get your translucent into a triangle, it will help you with that. You can patch. Who says it has to be one solid sheet? No one. You can definitely patch. And that should be, maybe a little bit more right here, because that should be enough of a buffer between my petals and my fingers where it shouldn't mess it up too much. See that? How we have more of a triangle shape now? We got a flat bottom. We have more of a triangle shape now. Now, in my mind, I want this project to be fairly large, okay? Or for my pendant that I'm going to do, I want the flower. So I'm not going to be reducing this crazy small. I mean, I may in the future, but for what I plan on doing initially, I want to keep this pretty big. So what I'm first going to begin doing is just pulling on the edges. Mainly putting pressure in the middle and then pulling out, kind of twisting outwards with my fingers. Just kind of working along. You want to work from the middle out. This is just like giving yourself a little waist. Oop, we need to fill that right there, because I don't want that petal to get that distorted in that spot. I'm going to try to save as much of it as I can. Good, okay. So it's just like when we reduce a circle and we start in the middle and we get the middle skinnier than the outside. That's what we're trying to do right now, is move the inside clay first. Just by kind of pushing down on it, pushing in on it, forcing it to do what you want it to do. I'm just working in the center though. And then once we get the center done some, then we'll work towards the outside. So now I'm going to pull towards the outside. I'm just going slow each time. You don't want to go fast, because if you try to move this along and you push harder in one spot than another, you're going to get a finger impression and a big indent. I don't even know what time it is. 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. I gotta work in the morning. So. Okay. And I know I've been showing a lot of these steps. You can always fast forward the 3 buttons at the top of your screen. On YouTube, you can hit playback speed, fast forward, you can skip around. I'm showing for what I think people need, just from the parts that people are saying they're having trouble with on either my Facebook page or on other pages or on YouTube itself. So, you know, if you don't want to watch these parts, you don't have to. I'm just, if I don't put it in, no one can watch it, and the people who need to watch it can't. So that's why I'm putting it in. So right now I'm working up and down and up and down in one area. Look how much we've already gotten. I'm trying to keep it fairly even all the way through. Oops, see, I pushed too hard right there that time. I did, I went for it and I squished that petal. So you really want to take your time and not do anything too hard in one spot. This is going to be a long video. It's going to take forever to upload. And don't worry about what's happening to the ends, because it's not what we're worried about. Now, let me just see here. This is a pendant. And I have bigger size pendants that I can use. It's almost to the size I want for my first size for sure. This is quite a big cane. I don't usually make them this size, so this is quite a bit. And I've never really done one with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for a half a flower, 7 petals. I've never really done one like this, so I'm kind of excited to see what it will look like. Now my thumbs are definitely stronger than my pointer finger, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then I'm going to do the bottom. I hope it's reducing okay. If it's totally jacked up, you guys won't see it because I won't post the video. But it's actually a good flower cane. You know, the technique was fairly simple, and it got some pretty cool looking stripes on there. I would probably not use this shape for what I'm thinking. I'd probably use more like this shape for it, and have this on the outside, and then my petals on the inside. Or something like this even, you know. So I think that's almost to the size I want it. I want it to be like an up-close shot of a flower, and then I'll put water drops on the flowers themselves, on each petal. Well, the bottom's not as wide as the top, so I'm going to try to get the bottom just as wide as the top is. Okay, ready? I'm going to cut into this. Ready? Oh, I'm nervous. And it's going to smear probably. Oh, that's exactly kind of what I was intending. Some of these petals got a little wonky. That's kind of what I was intending. Right there. And there's still some gaps and stuff. That's fine. When I cut it, I'll fill that. I'll just push it where I want it to go. Because you can always stretch it when you cut them, you know? I really like it. I hope, you know, for people who didn't know, these do look like they're behind. To me, they do. And I hope to you they look behind too. And what I was thinking for my cutter, you know, is take it something like that. Or I can use that narrower one, even a football shape. I just want like a partial flower, you know, showing up. Something like that on a project. I think that would look cool myself. I mean, everybody's different on what they like, but I really like that. I'm really happy with that, guys. And again, if you don't even make, you can set up whatever style flower you want, but look at the beautiful petals. That's what that whole technique was about. Those got some pretty nice, faint petals in there. Yep, I'm happy with this. I'm going to use this on a project coming up, and I'll post that tutorial when I'm done with it, but I like it. I hope you guys like it. If you don't, sorry. And again, you can always just use this technique, and I may use it in a tutorial later, just making a regular flower, because I might call this an advanced cane because it was kind of difficult, but I may make that, I may make a whole one of these eventually, a whole flower with the ones in between. That was the first time I'd done that, and I think cutting it the way I did actually worked out fairly well. Having them slightly darker I think worked out fairly well too. Kind of makes them look underneath. So anyways, if this was helpful for you guys, it may be helpful for someone else, as I always say. So please like, you can share it on your other polymer clay groups. Comment if you have any questions, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to write down, people keep having trouble finding my Facebook page. I'm actually going to write it so I can show you guys at the end of each video. Katie's Polymer Clay Friends. Okay, that's my Facebook page. That's how you spell my name, Katie. It's not K-A-D-I-E, not K-A-D-Y, K-T, not K-A-T-Y either. So that's my Facebook page. If you use any of my tutorials, I'd love to see how you modified them, manipulated them, changed the color, used them in projects. So please always, that's a good spot to share, because you can't share it on YouTube, which I think is stupid, but you can't share photos. So if you want to share your photos or just watch other people's creations or get inspired by other people, please join that page. And what I might do with this, sorry, I just thought about it, I might get some of this translucent off now, because that's a lot of excess translucent that I can use for something else, like that. So just because I put it on there to help me reduce it doesn't mean it's a goner. You can always shave some of your translucent off if you want at the end. And then you can always pull that petal up longer. I really like this. I'm pretty happy with this, guys. I need to stop looking at it and admiring it, because I really like the technique for the petals, so I'll probably be using that in a different tutorial someday, for sure. Because I like the petal pattern just by folding the clay. Isn't that pretty cool? Okay, I'm done looking. I'm sorry. It's a long tutorial. I will see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know. See ya. As I'm making these petals, I just wanted to say something. I've seen some people's canes and on my Facebook page, and they come out like really square, and that's because they're only pinching, let me see, one of the ends, and they're leaving this so square. You really need to round it off, and you need to look down the entire length of your cane from here all the way down to the other side. If you only pinch in the ends, but you leave the middle square, the middle of your cane is going to cut square. So you have to look down and make sure there's, you know, when you look down it all needs to be matching each other. Okay, so really, you know, if you're having trouble with your shapes, if it's not your backfilling, then it might just be the way you're shaping your petals. And I would take a little more time with that and really sit down and make sure they look good all the way through. Flip it over, work on one side, work up through the middle. The whole thing has to be evenly shaped, and that's why when I do it here, I make sure they're all pulled to the same point. Otherwise it won't be pointy all the way through. So you want to make the top even. You don't want a part like that, because that's going to look pointy here, but when you cut through, this is not going to look as pointy. So you kind of have to think about it as you're slicing it. And it's okay if it varies a little bit. I mean, flowers are going to be different, so each slice will be a little different, but if you want them to look more like a petal, you really have to shape them as a petal. I pinched a little too much on that end just to over exaggerate it, but that's okay. I'll put that on the inside. So most of this I'm not talking in because I already pretty much showed you the technique. This is just to, I'm modifying the flower design. I made a quick pendant and I'm not super happy with it, which when right here, I'll show it again in the beginning of this. This is what I'm going for, like an up-close version of a flower, and I'm going to use my raindrops again, which I may modify, and I'll show you that because I've only done it once. So I may show you what I would edit about that. But I'm going to finish these off, and then we'll begin cutting and then backfilling. And one more thing. The reason why I did the other petals darker is because I want them to look a little different than either the front petals. I want them to look a little different, and that's why, same on the first cane I showed you, just making half of the flower. These guys are a little bit darker because I kind of want it to look a little shadowed, like they're sitting up underneath those petals. I hope I kind of captured that. So that's why I did the second one's not the same blend. I did a separate blend. Okay, so last night before bed, I got all this ready. Now I need to cut it. This was the same center I used for the other piece, the first one I showed you. Really, everything's the same. I didn't have enough of the same color, so I just varied them a little bit. But I'm setting up the flower differently. I'm making a full flower. The other thing I want to do different is get it shadowed a little bit more. So I'm going to add a layer of a dark blue. What I'll probably do is I have this piece of this end here. I'll probably mix this up, and then and maybe with a little purple, because if I do that, then it gets this color here, this purpley color that's mixing this greenish teal with this. So maybe I'll do a little that in there. Well, maybe that's not dark enough. Let's get a little more of that in there. Mix that up, and I'm going to line these. So I'm using my end canes, and all this purpley color is an end cane from something else I was doing. So use up your scrap colors. So what I'll do is I'll mix this up. I will cut or roll this out really thin, and then we'll cut the back petals just like we cut them on here to fit in there, and then we'll begin putting it together and packing it with translucent. So again, I'm going to fast forward because you already watched this process, and I just wanted to show you how I set it up. I'm sorry for the people who do like to watch it step by step. You can always hit playback speed and slow it down if you want, but I'm not talking in this. I'm only talking. I know people like to hear it and hear how I kind of problem solve through these projects, but on this one, like I said, I already did it, so I didn't want to have this video be 5 hours long. So anyways, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to wrap a little dark color or a dark blue or whatever your darkest color is, just a thin layer, maybe from here to here, just like right here, so it separates the back petal from the front petal a little bit. And I want it on a really thin setting. I just barely want a hint of a line. And then I'll put it together and pack it with translucent, pretty much the same way we pack every cane. But here we go. I'm going to speed up. So first thing is I'm not going to do a center in this. Second thing is when I add these two petals, it just gets too big. So I'm going to try this as a centerless flower, and I'm also going to try and see how it comes out. So I kind of have it pushed together. It's okay if there's spaces here because that's where this petal will push into or these two will push into. So I'm okay with that. So now I just have to begin backfilling and filling in all these gaps. Now I don't want to fill in any of these spaces here because when I start pushing this all together, that will all come together. So I really just want to fill in where it would be like a normal triangle. I don't want to distort my shapes too much, but if we were to like condense this in together, all of those pieces should fit. And again, you guys, I've never done a lot of these double flowered ones, so we're working it out. I think it'll look pretty cool. Either way, you know, but use this petal technique and other techniques. I mean, you could use this petal. What I was trying to show is look at all these cutoffs I did. Those are beautiful. You know, you can make a veneer out of those. Or you can just mix it up and have a new color, bluish color. So don't get rid of any of these scraps. You use them as a different color, just like I did with the wrapping. I mixed up that color and made this blue. So, and the other thing I said to someone the other day, I hope you guys actually watch this, but if you're not 100% happy with your pendant, unless you're just doing one test pendant like I did here, if you're not 100% happy, don't bake it. Because at least when it's raw, you could take colors, cut it off if you have a multicolored pendant, put the pinks with the pinks, the blues with the blues, reds with the reds, greens with the greens, things that aren't going to mix and make brown, and use that later as another color. Once you bake it, you're done with that piece. I mean, you can use it to test different varnishes, to test different polishing things, you know, but you can't do too much with it. And I have a box of them that I used to bake, and now when I'm happy with it, I bake it. If I'm not happy with it, I don't bake it. So it's really just going to be your kind of decision on when you're happy or not. So I'm just looking. I'm going to see if I can maybe switch this guy out. I want to see if I can. This one looks skinnier to fit in there further. That looks like it fits there a little better. I wonder, this one's a little fast. Let's see if I can get him out of there. It's kind of nice I have two spare petals because I can really manipulate it and decide what I want to use. That fits better. Okay, I'm going to grab some translucent, and I'm going to fast forward through it. But this is, I think, the flower I'm going to use, and we'll use this for the raindrops. Now I hope all these spaces fill in, even though I don't want to reduce it too small. So I'm hoping they'll all close up enough, but even when I cut a petal, if there's some gaps, I can kind of push a cane slice and mess with a cane slice itself. Okay, so I'm going to grab translucent, I'll begin backfilling. Okay, so when I was reducing this, because I want to keep this really large, to do that pendant style I showed you earlier, which I can't find for the moment, I then after flattened it out. I just wanted to try to get all these gaps in here closed up, is my main goal, by pushing it together and then giving it a little flatten back out to stretch it back out a little bit here. Okay, and this can totally be reduced down small. You know, I've never really done this double petal, and that's what I'm attempting with this. I'm probably going to let it rest before I cut into it because it is quite soft. I did make the cane parts last night, now that you know that, and then this today after work. But the cane part's still really soft, so I may let it rest. And then I'll probably take half of this, because this is a good amount, you know. I'll probably take half of this, about an inch, yeah, an inch tall. It fits in my palm there, and I got extra small hands. This is a 4-inch tile. I bet you it's, let's see, just maybe 2.5 inches wide by, or from here to here, by an inch here. So I'll probably let it rest, but take half of this. Sorry, my dog's whining. Take half of this and reduce it down small. This would be a great small flower. I just have something in mind. I'm trying to accomplish it. The other thing is, I put some of those sheets that I cut off onto a little sheet here, and now I have a veneer that I can use someday in a project for something. I don't know what, but for something. I still have these 2 petals, but these will also make colors, so I'm not worried about having these 2 petals. It's not the end of the world. I know my dog's whining because he wants the bone from the other one. And then here's a piece of the scrap as well. So, you know, don't get rid of these scrap clays. These are pretty blues, you know. You could use that blue in a flower as your dark color. So, anyways, I will cut this, and most of you are on my Facebook page, so you'll see it. Let me get my book so you can see exactly. I think people are spelling my Facebook page wrong. So on Facebook, you go search groups, and you put in Katie's Polymer Clay Friends. Okay, and my group should pop up. It has a big flower, a polymer clay flower. It's yellow and red and orange kind of, and I'm right on there. And I've on my videos been posting the link to that group. So on that group you'll see what I do with this project, and I will probably post a video of my project as well. And then I'll probably use this later as a smaller flower, but I want to do something with it big. So I don't want to cut it right now, but in the next video you will see it cut. Pretty happy with it. It took a little figuring out, a little playing, but all in all I think it worked. We'll really see next time.